All right, good afternoon, good day, everybody that's joining us for today's first Microsoft Copilot Community Connection call. I know that we're going to be having some more people probably pop in as we are getting going here, but we welcome you to our first meeting. And I just get this out of here, guys. If you know anybody else that would be interested in these sessions as we are doing these, please invite them, let them know what's going on so that they can get something out of these sessions as well, get them into our, we'll talk about our community and how all that works, but we welcome you to our first session. All right, with that, what are we going to do today? Just some intros, some quick things that we want to do. And then we're going to get to Will, and Will's going to take us through Microsoft Copilot Chat in general, just so you can understand the basics and how it works. We have some closeout stuff at the end we're going to go through, but other than that, it should be a pretty good meeting today. I know Will's been doing this conversation with a lot of different customers, and I think it's going to be a good one. You're going to learn a lot today. But because this is a Microsoft event, we do have our code of conduct that we follow, please. Just treat others in chat and things like that. Any interactions, please, just like you would want to be treated. So please keep that in mind. It's all about respectful behavior in your interaction. So please make sure you're following that. During the presentation, you guys are going to be muted, just so you know. We want to really focus on what Will's talking about. And so if you have any questions, please just throw them in the chat. Let us know what's going on there. And then we'll either answer them in the chat. I have my colleague, Jeff Bart, is also on to be able to answer questions. And then if timely, maybe we'll be able to bring those questions into Will and ask them. But we will have some time at the end. If there's more other questions, we will give you the ability to unmute at this point. Raise your hand, we'll call on you, and then you can come on off mute and then ask your question if that's the case. Please know that we do have a community, which I think, and I feel like a lot of you have already done this. I'm going to go ahead and grab that link, or if you just click on the link, that will actually take you to our team set up for the Copilot community, so that you can connect with people here at Microsoft, with our partners and other customers that are utilizing Copilot, and learn from them, right? So you might be able to ask questions in those areas to be able to help you with what you're trying to do. You can either scan using the QR code here, or click on the link to be able to get access and register for that particular site. And we thank you for those people who have done it. We do have this on the third Thursday of every month, and we're building out our calendar of topics for the next couple of months, so keep that in mind. And we'll be doing that here. We'll announce that in the team. That's going to be the easiest way to be able to find that information. So make sure you get registered for that team, and I'll throw the link. And thank you, Jeff, for throwing that link in there. Additionally, we do have a YouTube site that we're going to be posting all of these sessions that we are doing. So if you go out there right now, we don't have anything, but if you go out there, as soon as we'll take the video from this, we'll upload that into our YouTube channel, and then you'll be able to hit it later on if you need to. You can even put comments in there, and we'll watch for those things as well too. So make sure that you get a chance to do that. And with that, and you do nice job, Will, on adding some additional photos into that one. Congrats. I'm going to turn it over to Will, and Will's going to kind of take you through the content for today. So thank you again for joining us, and Will.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Will Thomas. That's my addition of myself on screen there. Obviously, I like to play with the image generation services quite a bit. So every deck I do, I kind of have a theme, and I'll make little images of myself, and it's just a fun thing to do. We are going to play around with the image generation today. It's just as a form of using prompting and learning how to do some things. So get ready to do that. We're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Today, I'm going to go through Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. And this is going to be applicable for those of you who have a paid Copilot license and those of you who do not. So we have a Copilot Chat that works for both. and you can do a lot with even the unpaid version. So I want to make sure you all know what's possible for you all. But before we even get into that, we're going to go through some prompt crafting. So prompt crafting, you've probably heard the term prompt engineering. That's way too complicated of a term, right? It makes it think like it's rocket science, and it's not. It's just the way that we are going to interact with an AI, with a computer. And so we'll talk through that. We'll give you some best practices, some tips and tricks there. And then we're going to jump into a live demo at the end, and you'll get to ask all your questions. So feel free to put those in chat, as he was saying. Now, Copilot is built on 4 pillars. So we have the large language models, which are a pre-trained brain, essentially. It's like think of it like an encyclopedia. They are trained up to a certain point in time. After that, it doesn't know anything. So it's great for what it is. If you ask a question about something that's in its model, it can give you a great answer. Then we also have a second pillar, which is the graph. So for those of you who have a paid Copilot license, the graph is going to be your connection to everything within your organization, your emails, your chats, your meetings, your documents, anything you have access to, and your connection to those things is the Microsoft Graph. For those of you who don't have a paid license, you can still tap into this. You just have to do it at single sources at a time. So you can upload a document into your chat. You can upload a couple documents into there. So you can still kind of use that. You're just you're not looking at the entire graph at once. The third pillar is going to be using those M365 applications themselves. So Outlook, Teams, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, etc. Copilot is baked into all those, and you can have a conversation with it about what's on screen and tap into it there. And then the fourth one is going to be the internet. So using the web to pull back more up-to-date results, maybe, or maybe something specific from a website. So if you have a question that's not in that pre-trained model, in that LLM, we can add the web as a source where it can pull in more recent information. So if you were to ask it, who won the hockey game last night, it's not going to know without going out to the web. So having that as an option is very nice and handy. Now I want to talk really quickly about responsible AI. I'm not going to go into how it all works. I want to really just focus on the 3 main things down the right-hand side of the screen there. And that is our commitment to you all that your data is your data. Microsoft is not taking your data. We're not storing it anywhere. If you upload a document, that gets put into your OneDrive. It's not going out to a Microsoft cloud somewhere. We don't use any of your prompts, any of the materials to train those models. We have a separate instance of those large language models. You know what OpenAI is, and ChatGPT and all that. They use the same models we have, but we have our own instance of them that are in the Microsoft service boundary. And we do not train those models. They are static when they are put in place. And then lastly, all the same security controls that your organization has in place for your documents and your data and your Teams meetings and all that, Copilot will honor it. Copilot will run as you. So if you ask it a question about some documents, if you have access to it, Copilot can see it, it can work with it. If you don't have access to it, Copilot doesn't even know it exists. All right, let's jump into the actual interface here. We'll do a quick little rundown on the UI, where everything's at. I'm actually going to start in the top right corner of the screen here, and that is with this green shield right here. To me, that is probably the most important thing, and that is making sure when you are using Copilot, you see that green shield. That is letting you know that you are logged in with the correct account, with your organizational account, and you have enterprise data protection enabled. If you don't see that little green shield, you're most likely logged in with a personal account or an account that's not your organizational one. So just check that and make sure it's there. With that, it just means that we're not training on the materials or your prompts. Your identity and your organization's identity, whenever it goes out to the web, are masked. So just make sure that that is there. That's important. The next thing, we're just starting at the top again. This little blue button is your new post button. When you're talking with a person, you're having a conversation about the weather, and then you switch gears and you start talking about a meeting you're about to go to. There's normally some sort of segue between those 2 topics, right? Copilot's going to work the same thing. We're having a conversation with it. We start asking it about 2 different things. It might get confused and be like, well, we were just talking about topic A. Now we're talking about topic B. I'm confused. So that little blue button is a new topic. It resets the context. and helps with things called hallucinations within Copilot. All of your chat history is stored, and that's going to be over here on the right-hand side, over here, little conversation tab over there. Every conversation you have with Copilot is stored there. It automatically names it based on whatever topic it is you're talking about it. You can also rename it yourself. And you can search through those conversations and find an old one and just pick right back up where you left off yesterday or last week. In the middle of the screen, this is where we're going to have all our interactions with Copilot. That's where we're going to put our prompts. So we're going to write out our prompt. We're going to upload our documents. We're going to attach, meetings, people, any type of context or content is going to go into that box. And then we have our little go button, which is going to actually send that prompt to Copilot. We'll get a response. Below that, we have what we call starter prompts. There's always going to be 3 in there. Even if you're in Word or Outlook, we can typically have starter prompts in there. And that's just a way to get you started. If you're new with Copilot or you're just trying to figure out what is possible with Copilot, those starter prompts are just curated prompts from Microsoft to help you get going. In addition to those 3, there's a See More button that'll give you a bunch more. And then after that, there's a button underneath that takes you into the full, what we call prompt gallery. And in there, there's hundreds of Microsoft curated prompts that you can go through and look. Those can be sorted by your tasks, by the applications you're working in, or even the type of persona that you're working in. So if you're an HR manager, there's an HR list of prompts that you can go through. So check that out. I'll show that to you when we get to the demo as well. Also, one thing I like to point out, since we changed our whole Office UI several months ago, a lot of us used that waffle menu to get to our applications. You probably remember that. If you're like me and you're missing that, if you click into apps over here on the bottom left, you'll see all your Office applications like OneDrive, Word, PowerPoint, all those. You can pin them and they will show up in this list. And it just makes it really easy to click on then. So if you're like me and you're missing that waffle, that's the next best thing I found. So you go ahead and pin your favorite apps there. All right. How do we get to Copilot? Well, we've made that extremely easy for you. It's everywhere. You can get to it in New Outlook pinned on the application bar on the left-hand side. You can get to it in Teams if you've pinned it on the left navigation there. If you use Edge as your internet browser, there's a button for Copilot in the top right corner. You can also download our mobile app. Now, 2 quick things with that. There are 2 applications for Copilot out there. There's one that's just called Copilot. That is for consumer version. You want to download the M365 Copilot application. It's our old Office application. If you had that, it's probably been already rebranded to M365 Copilot. That's the one you want for when you're working with your organizational content. And then also, in addition to these 4, you can use a website. Just go to, someone just put it in chat, m365.cloud.microsoft/chat, or an easier one can be m365copilot.com. Just make sure you're logging in with that work account. And then on your desktop, you have your old Office application as well. You can get to it through there. So like I said, you can get to Copilot from almost everywhere. You can open up Word and you can use it. You can open up Outlook, you can use it. So no excuses for not knowing how to get there. Now, what I do want you to do at this point, I want you to go and just click on that link in chat. Make sure you're logged in with your work account, because we're going to do a little activity here in a bit. I want to make sure we're all there. If you prefer to do this through your app on your computer, that's fine. We're going to go through this in the demo, but like I said, Copilot is in all of your favorite Office applications as well. So there should be a Copilot in the ribbon. Click on that icon and it will open up the Copilot sidecar, which is where we can start having conversations about whatever it is we're working on in that application. So the big change happened here in September, and that's that those of you who don't have a Copilot license are also seeing this now, and you have some limited things you can do with Copilot in those applications. So if you're in Outlook, you can create a reply to an email, and that'll show up in that sidecar, and you can copy and put it into your email. If you're looking at a Word document, you can get a quick summary of something. So lots of nice new things you can do in there without even having a license. However, with the license, you have a lot more things you can do, obviously. Definitely the value is still there. But I'm glad that we added a lot of capabilities for those who are not able to have the license as well. Another big change we did recently was adding in a new model. So we were using 4.0 as our default model before. Now we have this new model called GPT-5. Um, for now, it's an opt-in. You'll have a little button in the top right corner of your screen. You can click on it to use GPT-5 for every conversation that you're having with Copilot. That will soon become the default model, and you'll have to opt out of it. So if you want to go back to 4.0, you'd have to turn off GPT-5, etc. With this new model, it comes with this thing called a GPT-5 real-time router. And essentially, if you ask a very simple question in your prompt, it's going to go down a route that's going to give you a very quick, good, thorough answer. However, if you ask a question that might be more involved, whether it's a very long document you're getting a summary of, or multiple documents, or look at all my emails from the past 6 months, that's a big ask. And so it has the ability now to go down this deeper reasoning route and give you a much more thorough answer. It takes more time. It's almost like the researcher agent if you've used that before, but it's able to go through that in more depth and give you a much better answer. Let's jump into prompt crafting. Um, so with AI, there are no brain implants yet. It doesn't know what we want unless we tell it. So it's very important to make sure you are telling Copilot what it is you need. Are you trying to get a summary of a document? Are you trying to create an image? Are you analyzing something? Or do you want to compare two different documents? It doesn't know what it is we want. So we have to make sure that we are telling it not just what we want, but how we want it. Where do we want it to come from? All of the bits of the puzzle we need to give it. Otherwise, we're going to get what we give, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Now, when we're talking with an AI, we've been wired over the past several decades to work with computers with keywords. You think about going out to an internet browser, you type in just a couple keywords, and you hit enter. That's not what we want you to do anymore. AIs were these LLMs are trained using natural language. Natural language is the way I'm speaking to you now, without all the filler words like and right? So we want you to start using natural language when you're talking to Copilot. That's how it's designed to interact. It still uses keywords, but it also uses your language in the context of your entire question when it's looking for information. That way it can pull back even more relevant information than would with a keyword or a list of keywords. And what we get from that is instead of having a search engine like Google or Bing, you get back a list of links that you have to go through to find the answer you're looking for. Instead, we get back an answer. And we still get a list of links where it pulled that answer from, but right away we're able to save time by seeing what that answer is, and we can still validate it. But if we already know the answer, we're just trying to confirm it, it's a nice quick way to get that answer back. But using natural language is definitely key to getting good responses out of any AI. And if you're like me, when I first got started, if you're having trouble using natural language, take your hands out of the equation, turn on voice to text, and start talking to it. It's a lot easier to use natural language when you're speaking. All right, activity time. So this is going to be fun. We're going to do image creation here. The principles that we're going to apply here, though, will also be applied or applicable when we talk about Word or Outlook or prompting with something in a more professional manner. Um, I said Copilot doesn't know what it is that we want unless we tell it. Well, before you start typing anything in your prompt, I want you to think about a dog holding a tennis ball in its mouth. Think about the entire scene. What kind of dog is it? What color is the tennis ball? Where is the dog at? What does the picture look like? Is it realistic or is it a cartoon? Is it a painting? All of the aspects of the picture. What's going on behind it? Where's the camera angle at? Is the dog looking away from the camera, etc.? Picture the whole thing in your mind. Then I want you to write out that prompt. I want you to put the entire prompt in the window and create your image. If you're using the Copilot app, there is a create option in there where you have a little bit more options with you when you're creating an image. You can do that as well if you want. But go ahead and get your image going. When you have it, go ahead and paste it into chat so we can all look and enjoy everyone's dog photos. Um, I'll show you here. I'll show you mine. I'll keep going through my slides here so you can see what I've done. But I want you to go ahead and put your dog pictures in there. If you're a cat person, that's okay. We'll try not to hold it against you. You can put a cat picture in there. Um, the point of this is to just get that whole prompt out. I'll give you all a second here and then I'll move on. And this image generation, it can take a bit of time before you'll get a fully rendered image. It's almost like a 56K modem loading in. Um, that's with the new 4.0 model, and it definitely increased the time it took to get a picture, but the pictures that we're getting out are a lot better. And working with a picture with multiple editions had got a lot better with that new model as well. So here's my first shot at a picture. This is my dog Mozzie. He's a Australian Shepherd, particularly a black tri-Australian Shepherd, and he's constantly shedding all over the place. So I went with a fun image and made him entirely made out of yarn, holding a tennis ball in its mouth. The yarn is unraveling from its body, giving a frayed and delicate appearance. The dog has a worried expression with wide eyes and slightly drooping ears. The background is soft and neutral to emphasize the texture of the yarn. The overall style is whimsical and artistic, resembling a handcrafted yarn sculpture. So this was my first image that I created. Now, the next thing we want to do with Copilot, after we've given it everything we want, is to keep that conversation going. It's not just a once and done. Very rarely do I have a conversation with Copilot and it's one prompt long, unless it's something like, what's the weather today? Um, so keep the conversation going. When you get your first picture back of your dog, if it doesn't quite what you thought in your head, figure out what it is that you missed in your prompt or what it is that it missed and update it. Oh, we're already starting to get some pictures. These are great. Love it. So in my case, when I said I wanted the dog to be made of yarn, I was thinking like a knit together dog, like one piece of yarn that has been knit together. So I changed it up. I said the dog should be knit together with a single thread of yarn. And then I took a step further and made it funny. Unraveling from the back, having a large pile of yarn on the ground, his back legs already missing, and just a pile of yarn on the ground. So I didn't have to give it my entire prompt again, telling it, be scared, be worried, having a tennis ball in its mouth. It already knew that. It's just now changing up the bits and pieces that I'm adding to it. So I'm continuing this conversation. Now that looks a lot closer to what I want. So now I'm going to add in my background that I want. So I'll throw another prompt in there. I said, perfect. Now add a background, an old country one-room home with a grandma sitting on a rocking chair using the yarn from the pile to knit something new. Don't make anything other than the dog made of yarn. The rest of the home and grandma can look like a Pixar animated image. And so I get pretty close to the same dog there, just cleaned up a little bit, and we got the grandma in the backyard in a one-room home. So really like that the new model keeps the same look and feel as I'm going through this process now. The old one kind of did an all right job, but it would completely change what's going on in the image. Now, a nice little tip outside the whole image creation and the prompting, you have an entire conversation with Copilot, maybe 4, maybe 10, maybe 20 prompts long. You finally get the response you want from Copilot. Well, the next time I go in and have a conversation with Copilot, I don't want to ask all those things again to get something out of it. Maybe it's a meeting summary. Every time you have that meeting, I don't want to have 10 prompts long to get what I want. I want to be able to ask one prompt and get as close to that final product as I can. Well, something I learned a while ago is you can ask Copilot. So I told it, create a prompt I could have used to get this image the first time. And it spit out a prompt. And this image over here on the right is the result of that prompt. So as you can see, not the same image because it's an image generator, right? It's not going to ever be the exact same, but the overall aspect is very close. And anything that is changed is something I didn't actually specify in my prompt. So it gave me a very, very close rendition of that. Now this is going to apply for, like I said, your meeting summaries. You get an output that looks really nice, something you want to use for all of your meetings. Have Copilot give you that perfect prompt from your entire conversation and save that prompt and use it for all your meetings coming up. Awesome. I'm loving the dog pictures that are coming in. If you want to keep working on them, sending them, that's great. I am going to move on. When you're writing out your prompt, we have a nice little way for you to remember what needs to be involved in that prompt. And it's called a prompt framework. And in that is your goal, your context, your source, and expectations. The what, the why, the which, and the how. The goal is what do you want from Copilot? That's normally the easiest one for us to come up with. The context is the why you need it and who's involved. That's something we don't often think of. Why should I tell Copilot what this is for? Well, it's so that it knows and understands why you need it, and it can phrase its response in a way that's more helpful for us. And that way, when we ask follow-up questions, it's like, well, I added this because you said this is for a marketing manager group or something like that. Our source is exactly what it sounds like. It's where should Copilot go to get this? And that might be as simple as a document that you've uploaded to it, or it might be look at all my emails or look at this website or something like that. Your expectations is very important in my opinion. It's what we just did in our images, right? It's how do we want Copilot to respond to us? In what way? How should it sound? Should it sound like a technical document, or should it be something that anyone can understand? Is it a legal document? Is it going to be formatted as a table or in a bulleted list, in a numbered list, etc.? So all those things are expectations. And then we've already talked about this, keeping that conversation going. If you don't get that first or perfect response the first time, which very often we won't, keep that conversation going. Tell Copilot what it is you want, give it some follow-up prompts, maybe ask it some questions, say, hey, how can I improve this? Turn Copilot into your prompting buddy, and it can give you some nice recommendations. Oh, goodness, Chris, that's a scary looking dog. Uh, Here is my last slide, and then we'll get into the demo. Um, Top 10 to try first with Copilot chat prompts. This is just something for anyone and anyone to go out and try. There's lots more out there. Remember, I told you about the prompt gallery. This is just there to get you started. All right, I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to switch into our live demo. Donald, do we have any questions we want to take at this time?
Nothing that comes off the top here, so I think we're good.
Okay.
And I will take you off of that. There we go.
Perfect. So at this point, everyone should be seeing my screen. Should have the Copilot app pulled up with Corey Gray logged in.
When you get a chance, just
Yeah.
kind of came up. Some of the folks mentioned maybe they kind of see the interface differently if you're accessing Copilot through Teams versus you may have the at the top, you can kind of show the menu bar on the left. Just kind of maybe screen layout would be good just for folks that are maybe seeing slightly different layouts depending on where they're accessing from.
Yeah, definitely. So the interface should look similar, but you're right. It's going to look a little bit different depending on where you're accessing it. And this is something I actually just noticed this morning in Teams. All the conversations and agents and things are over on the right-hand side instead of the left. And I think they did that just because Teams, we have all our chats down the left-hand side, right? So if you're using Copilot within Teams, just note that those two things are reversed. For me, everything else is pretty much in the same place. But you can also get to Copilot. In my case, it's in two spots. Oh, my button's not working. So up here, above my chats and things, I have Copilot, which I can get to it. I also have it pinned in my navigation. And this one opens up Copilot without my chats going on. So a little bit different there. However, when we open it up in the M365 Copilot app, so the actual application on my computer, everything's on the left-hand side, similar to how I showed it to you in our PowerPoint. So my conversations are on the left-hand side. If I click into all conversations, I will see a list of everything I've done in here, going back as far as my retention policy is with my organization. And I can just click on one. It'll open up that conversation and I can resume right back where I left off with Copilot once it loads it. Another difference you might see if you don't have a paid Copilot license, you're not going to see this work web toggle across the top. All this is doing for those with a paid license is disabling our graph connection with our organizational data. So if we're on web, it's only looking at that pre-trained model and web results. It is not looking at our documents, our emails, and things like that. So if we're having a conversation that's not necessarily organizational related, maybe we're just asking about, the weather or news or something like that, I can jump over here into web and I can have a conversation without it bringing in any content from my organization. Similarly, if you're in work and you want to have questions that only are working with those pre-trained models and your organizational data and not include anything in the web, over here on the ellipsis in the top right, I can click on that and I can turn off web search. Now it will not go out to Bing. So if I'm working with something that's maybe proprietary or PII or something like that, where I don't want anything to have any risk of going out to the web, I can turn that off. And now that's not even an option. It will not go to the web at this point. So if I were to ask it, what's the weather today? It's not going to know. See, it's just failing. It has no idea where I'm at. It has no idea what the weather is. It's clueless. Now you might be asking, like, why did it return anything? It's pulling this from some graph data I have. So I need to actually delete a document. It was able to pull back something. Ignore that. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that definitely
Okay,
covers that. We're grabbing a couple other questions. We may come back to you with some things in chat that we would surface for everybody else too.
got it. I'll open up just a document so we can see what it looks like in one of the application UIs. So by clicking Copilot up in the ribbon, top right, it brings up in the Copilot chat pane on the right-hand side. This is where I can have similar type conversations, but I can also do things like just say this document. So I can say summarize this document. Oh, right, please. There it goes. And it already knows what this document is because it's the one I have open. So it's able to do things like that with what I have open. If you have that paid license, you can also start looking at your graph data. So notice I still have work and web toggles up here at the top. So I can say compare this doc to, and then link out to another document. Or I can say help me prepare for my upcoming meeting with information from this document, things like that. If we're on the web or we don't have that paid license, we're just working with what's in this document, and I can do things like propose a new introduction for this document, or I'm looking for information about the warranty in this document. If we were to just do a search on warranty, now using those keywords, we're going to get back 500 instances of the word warranty. That's not going to help us any. Um, but by asking a question in Copilot, it's able to go and use that natural language and pull back the warranty is good for 7 years, and here's where I found all that information. Um, it's a nicer way to go and sort of search through your document over here. I'm going to go back to our Copilot chat. We're going to start a new conversation. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to work just to make things a little bit easier on me. If you're following along, you don't have a license. The only thing you'd have to do here is specifically reference your document by uploading it or attaching it to your OneDrive. I'm going to ask to get a summary of a document. Like prompt in here, summarize the Contoso Motors doc and highlight areas that could assist marketing team with the communications for the upcoming go-to-market strategy. So I have an upcoming meeting. I want to prepare for it. I have a document that was given to me. I want to know if there's anything in here that is relevant for our go-to-market. Um, so I can either click the plus button or I can do a / when I'm typing, and it's going to bring up our context IQ window. So in here, I can attach recent documents or people I've worked with, files, meetings, etc. I don't have any meetings. I'm looking for a specific file that's called Contoso Motors, and then there's some more in here. Now it's right here, but if I didn't see it, I could either start typing that out and it's going to filter for me, or if I still don't find it, I can click on this little cloud icon and I can browse out to my OneDrive and locate that file and attach it. So in my case, should be right here. We're going to select that. We're going to get our summary. So I'm getting a summary. Still going. All right, it's done. It references the document, so I can validate that it's only pulling from that one document. So there's my reference. Now I want to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go into GPT-5. So I turned the button on that says try GPT-5. It now says it's turned on. I'm going to put in that same prompt. We're going to select the same document. Just want to, this is just for me, really, just for science to see how this differs from our previous response that we got. Now, I can already tell you this is using the high throughput router. So remember when we talked about GPT-5, there's two ways it could take. If this were going to do the deeper reasoning, I would actually start to see it reasoning. It wouldn't even start creating content right away. It would show me all the things it's looking at. But because we're only looking at one document and it's not a very long document, it's using that high throughput and it started answering right away. Now the answer I got is a little similar. We'd have to probably compare it word for word to see what it did differently. But either way, I got a pretty decent summary out of there. Well, my next thing I want to know with this document, as someone going to a go-to-market strategy meeting, I want to know if there are any things that could hinder the development or the deployment of our product at this time, according to this document. So I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Are there any gaps in the technology that could hinder a deployment at this time? I'm going to add in a line. Also, we're going to look at another document. So we have a specification guide that was also sent to us. So we're going to look at that one as well. See, now we're getting the reasoning model. It's now kicking in. So I can actually look at this and watch what it's doing as it's working through. Now this one might take a little bit of time. So we might go away and do something else while it's finishing this up. And then we'll come back and we'll see what its response is. But now we've given it more information. Oh, that was actually pretty quick. Never mind. We'll look at it. So we got next to yes, there are several technology documentation gaps that could hinder a near-term deployment of the Contoso Thunderbolt e-bike. So that's the thing we're taking to market. And so we can go through here and we can see where there are potential gaps in the technology. Now, these are questions I'll probably want to bring up with our technology team before we go to market. So I can take that into my meeting now. So I'm going to open up Outlook, where I already have a chain that was given or sent to me about this go-to-market strategy that's coming up. Now, this is a very long email chain, and you've probably all gotten these. You get an email from your manager, say, hey, what do you think about this? And that's all they say. And you have to spend the next hour reading through an email chain of 50 emails trying to figure out what this is so that you can respond authoritatively. Well, now we can just click the Summary by Copilot button right above the email. We get a quick summary of what's in this email. And we can respond to what this is. So we'll be able to figure out what's going on in this email, and then I can respond. Now with Copilot Chat, I can open up that sidecar. I can do a summary from here. To me, it's easier just to do it in the UI itself. But now I can say, all right, draft me a response to this. I'm going to put in my prompt. My prompt is to draft a response to the email, include a summary of this document and a call to action for our marketing team, include an action item for our technology team to respond to the potential gaps in technology found in the Contoso Motors document. This is going to draft a reply to this email over here in chat for me. Now, if you have the paid Copilot license, we could draft an email directly in a new email, right? We don't have to do it over here. If you don't have that paid license, we'll do it in Copilot Chat. We can copy it out and put it into our new email. So there's one kind of limitation of not having that license. But I am able to draft that email. So there we go. We have our email. I can copy that out. At the bottom of the response, there's a copy button, or I can select the text, whichever one you prefer. That copy button will take the entire response and put it in there. You'd have to clean up a little bit of this Things like this, we probably don't want in our email. So you'd have to clean it up. Remember, Copilot is your Copilot, not your autopilot. Always check it, make sure it doesn't have any extra text. Things like this was generated with AI. Check for accuracy. You probably don't want to send that off to your boss. So make sure you are checking over its work and validating its accuracy. Okay, let's go back into chat. I'm going to look at a previous conversation. We're going to look at this start my day. If it will load. If it doesn't, I have a backup here. Let's just switch to that since this one's not behaving. Here we go. So this is that same conversation. I will actually put this prompt in chat. It's a really nice one. Oh, that looked horribly. If someone was to clean that up and paste it again, that'd be great. This is just a start my day prompt. So it's got lots of things in here regarding my upcoming meetings, what the weather is today, gives me a joke, an inspiration, local weather, local news and world news, things like that. So just a great, well-rounded starting my day prompt. It's basically my own little newspaper. So I ran this. I got a nice response from it. It's giving me my local weather, some breaking news in local public safety. There's an insurance crisis going on in Louisiana. Upcoming holidays. I'm getting a lot of good information. I really liked this prompt. I'm going to want this every day. I can scroll up back to my prompt where it ran, and I can click this little schedule this prompt button. That's going to bring up this window. I can say this is going to start on what day, at what time do I want it to run. I want this in the morning. I'll specify what days of the week. I don't really care about Saturday and Sunday. I want that to run every week for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and to run for 15 times. So this is telling me this will run until January 30th, and then it gets turned off. So I'd have to reschedule this at that time. You can specify whether you want to get an email when that response is ready. So Copilot is just going to run this at 7:30 in the morning. Whenever that response is ready, you'll get an email. You can go check it out. And then I can save that. I already have it running, so I'm not going to do it again. But with that, we scroll through my conversation here. This one's been running since October 8th. And so every day I'm getting a response back from it. So here's reran it again. October 10th, I got a response from it. And it's really nice. So I have that ready for me in the morning when I start. Now this morning I was going through here and I was looking at it and I realized the joke of the day and the words of inspiration are the same every day. And I didn't really like that. So this morning I went in and I told it, try a different joke for tomorrow. When the scheduled prompt runs, add inspiration. You give me the same two for the past several days. And I got this little memory updated blank here. Copilot has what's called memory. And this is still rolling out, so you may not see this yet. But essentially, this is its way to not train the model or train on your information, but allow you to customize the way Copilot's responding to you.
Hey, Will, for
Yeah.
some reason, we're not seeing any of your prompts on that screen right now.
Oh, no, this whole time?
Well, just this last section, but it's blank. It's like literally blank. So I don't know if you want to go to a different conversation and try, or even just try resharing.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. And thanks, Melinda. I was also thinking I was like my eyes were playing tricks on me. All right, let's try this.
There we go. And
There
I'll
we go.
I'll keep my
Yep.
share window up so I can see what you all are seeing too. I apologize for that.
No problem. There we go.
All right,
That
so
works.
let me go back up here. So here's my prompt. Since you couldn't see anything, I clicked on this schedule my prompt. So I hovered over my prompt. There's a little button that says schedule this prompt. That's what I did. This is the screen I was talking about. I just unchecked the days I didn't want, and then I can schedule that. It then ran every day for the past 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. But I noticed, like I said, the jokes were always the same. The words of inspiration were always the same, and I didn't want that. So I gave it a prompt, again, telling it, don't do that anymore. Give me a new prompt or a new joke and a new inspiration every day. And it updated my memory. I can manage those memories. So if there's something in here I don't like, I can take that out. So this one's in here. Maybe I want this only for when it's running this prompt, and when the schedule is done, I don't want this to be part of my memory anymore. I can come in and I can delete that memory. And then Copilot doesn't remember that we ever had that little conversation right here. But it's saying, got it, starting tomorrow, your new daily system overview will include a fresh joke and new inspirational quote each day. So tomorrow, I expect to come in here and I expect to see a different joke because I don't want to see the same one. That's boring. Okay, the other thing we can do, if I scroll back up to that prompt where I scheduled it, I can copy that prompt. So if I just want to copy it, maybe put it in new conversation, I can copy it from here. I can also save it. So I already have this one saved, but I can click that little bookmark icon and it will save it to my personal prompt gallery. And I'll show you how to get that here in a second. The other thing I can do, this last one, is copy prompt link. If I copy that and I go into Teams, wrong Teams. Actually, I won't be able to share that because I'm only sharing one screen. If I went to Teams though and pasted that link to my colleague, they'll get a nice little hyperlink that'll say, so-and-so shared this link to you. When you click on it, it's going to open up Copilot. It's going to put in that prompt for them, and they can then choose to run it or not. So it's just a great way for you to share prompts amongst your colleagues. All right, to get to that prompt gallery, let's just go into a new chat here. I click that little new chat button. Remember I showed you the starter prompts in our slides? Here they are down here. Those are going to change up all the time. Every new chat, they're going to be a little bit different. They're just randomized starter prompts. If I click that see more, I see some more, but then I also have the prompt gallery here. So from here, I see all those Microsoft curated prompts. I can filter by my job type. Let's go to human resources, and I can see all the ones for human resources. If I want to see my prompts, at the top, I see a Your Prompts window. So I've saved that prompt already. It's already here. If I click on that, it goes ahead and pastes that into my prompt window, and I can send it again. So just a great way for you to collect your own prompts, your list of ones. There's also a way for you to save a prompt to a team. So if you're part of a team, you have your own Microsoft team, you can have a tab in one of those teams that collects all those prompts that are being shared to it. And so you're able to save them, collate them, collect them, and visually see them for your entire team. Moving on. How are we doing on time?
It looks like we have about 12 minutes left.
All right. Let me quickly switch back to my other one. Should be back in Copilot Chat.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. So one of the most popular and most used prompts or conversations that people have in Copilot is for meeting summaries. So you've had a meeting, you want to get good meeting notes out of it, whether you're the project manager or you're just someone who missed a meeting and you need to go in and figure out what happened during that meeting. If you have that paid Copilot license, it's very simple for you. You can go into that team and you can just ask Copilot for your meeting notes, right? If you don't have that license, you can get the meeting transcript file, whether it's a doc or a VTT, so a transcript file itself. You can upload that into Copilot and have Copilot give you meeting notes still. Same thing goes if it's not a Teams meeting, if it's a Zoom meeting or a WebEx or some other third-party meeting. If you get that transcript file, you can upload it into Copilot and you can still get your meeting notes, which is very handy to do. So we're going to get some meeting notes. Getting my prompt. So I'm going to put in a prompt. Provide a complete and thorough summary of the meeting to document discussions, decisions, and action items based on the uploaded transcript. I'm going to give it my transcript file. This is just a sample document here, so it's not going to have a whole lot of content in it. It's giving me a meeting summary, which we've asked for, list of the topics that were discussed, some key decisions. We got action items, which is nice. I even formatted in a table. It's even better. And then we're going to get a list to that document. So that's where we're going to have all our references, all our sources for its response. Now, in my prompt, I wasn't very specific in my expectations. So remember how I want Copilot to respond. Now, it did a pretty good job. It gave me pretty much everything I want. But what if it didn't? Because I didn't give those expectations, it could have not given me the action items because I didn't ask for it, or it could have not put it in a table, and I want it that way. So it's important to include all those aspects into your prompt. So let's do this again. Start over. I'm going to put in a more thorough prompt this time. I'm going to say same thing we had before, but in addition to that, format the summary in sections with bold headings. I want attendees, first name, comma, last name, list attendees in sub-bullets. I want a comma there, actually. Let's just do first name, last name, list attendees in sub-bullets. The meeting purpose, summary of topics discussed, include decision made, omit if none. So why am I putting that in there? Well, because not every meeting there are decisions that are made. Sometimes it's just a meeting to discuss things, but no decisions are made. Well, if we don't say omit if none, Copilot might include that. And we don't want a section on it if no decisions were made. So I'm just saying omit if none. Next actions, again, omit if none. Format this section as a table with columns, action item, owner, due date. So we actually got that in our last one, but I very well may have not gotten that. It's kind of random every time. Oh, I forgot to include the transcript. We'll let that run and we'll fix it. Someone in chat's asking, can you share this one? Here is that prompt for you if you want to try it. Let's go ahead and give it that file now. Let it actually do its job. Another nice thing I like about using Copilot is it doesn't care about my typos for the most part. There we go. So now I asked it specifically for a list of attendees, the meeting purpose. I gave it some structure to how I wanted it formatted. There we go. My action items are still in here. It's formatted as a table. I have action item owner due date, which is what I asked for. So in this case, it was actually very similar to my first one. But like I said, because I didn't include those specific items, it might have looked very different. If it's giving you a lot of emojis, I think in our first response, there was emojis for every topic. If you don't want that, just tell Copilot, don't include any emojis. Or maybe you want emojis. Tell it, put an emoji for everyone. Totally up to you on how all that is being responded back. Another thing, I don't have a demo set up for this, but if you're playing around with this, if you already have meeting notes typed up in a Word document somewhere in the format that you want it to look like, next time you have meeting notes, write a prompt to Copilot and say, create meeting notes from this meeting, reference the meeting, and use document A as a sample of the format it should look like, and format it to look like document A. You could probably reword that to be a lot less wordy, but it will take that document A format and it will apply it to its new content that it's creating and format it in that way. So if you have it with attendees at the top, action items at the bottom, and all the meat of the meeting in the middle, that's how it's going to format it. If you have it, another way, or if you have headers and things like that, it will take all those headers into consideration and make it look like that document. I got one last thing, and then we will open it up for questions. I go back into this new chat. So we worked with images, we created them. Well, what happens if you already have an image and you're wanting Copilot to interpret it? Some of you have probably done this before. What happens if we wrote on a whiteboard in a meeting, but we want that all captured and cataloged and maybe put into a document? I don't want to have to do all that manually. I can paste a picture into Copilot. If it loads, there it goes. This picture, let me see if I can get it for you so you can see what it looks like. Oh, paint is, there it is. There's my picture. It's a hand-drawn diagram of what to do when it rains. So it's just a flow diagram. Letting me know if it's raining, should I take an umbrella? Is it sunny? Wear sunglasses, etc. So something very simple. I'm gonna put that picture into chat and say, using Mermaid, which is a diagram flow type scripting tool. Using Mermaid, create a diagram of this image. And just like that, I have my diagram. Now, another use case I've done for this, I had a math professor at a university ask me, can I take a picture of the chalkboard at the end of a session and say, Copilot, interpret this or write all this out for me so I can send it to my students. And he had a picture with a very long calculus formula or equation up there. And I said, I don't know, let's try it. And so we entered that into Copilot, and Copilot was able to not only tell us what was on the chalkboard, but write out the equation with all the proper math symbols, which if you've ever had to do that in math, like on a computer, it can be very time consuming. And we were able to validate that not only was it all there, it was correct. And so it was an amazing use case. So next time you have a meeting in person and you're all up there brainstorming on a whiteboard, take a picture, upload it into Copilot, and have it digitize it for you. It's really, really handy. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's take some questions.
Yeah, so Ellen did throw something at the last second there. If you use prompt to create the meeting notes, and I think you kind of addressed this, but let's bring this back up again. So that meeting note thing that you were showing, do I have to copy and paste them into the chat, or is there a better way to be able to do that? I think you were saying, hey, if you have them in a document, or if you have that transcript file itself, that's probably good from the meeting. But if there's any meeting notes, put them in Word, put them in OneNote. What's the best way to do that well?
If you have the transcript file, you can reference that transcript file. If you have a sample, like I was saying, a sample document of how you want it to look, you can reference both and say, here's my meeting notes. This is what I want to look like. Make magic happen. You can do it that way. If you have that paid Copilot license, you can go directly into Teams, open up the recording, and you can get that straight from there as well. Does that answer the question? And then Jacqueline also had a question. Do you have a recommended format for sharing and storing prompts so that others can easily access them? Yes, I would use that prompt gallery. And you can either share them to a team, or you can use the copy link, and you can create your own library if you want in a OneNote or Loop or something like that. You can do it that way and share it out. You can put them in a SharePoint library if you want, but really that prompt gallery is probably the best and easiest way. Just create a team and share the prompt to a team. I'm not sure I actually showed how to do that, but when you're sharing a prompt, that's one of the options.
Any other questions? These are great questions, and thank you, Jeff, for trying to answer them as well. Oh, so Ellen did come back. Use cases, I'm in the middle of a meeting meeting, ask Copilot to create the meeting notes, but the result is just in my Copilot. I want the meeting chat for everyone to consume.
Gotcha. Okay. So there is a thing called Copilot Pages that you can do. It's going to be below the response you get back from Copilot. That might be something we cover next month or in a future one of these. But it creates what's called a loop page. It'll pop up in the right-hand side, and it makes Copilot's response an editable, collaborative space. And so you can invite others in with read or read-write access. You can edit that document. So let's say it got a name wrong or an action item is assigned wrong, something like that. You can tweak it before you send it out then, which can come in. That it sometimes gets things wrong, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So you can tweak it before you send it out and then share it in that way. You can also say to Copilot, hey, create this response in a Word document if you want it to be in a Word document, and it can export a nice Word document for you with its response. So if you want to work with it in Loop, which is my preference, you can do the edit in Pages. If you want it in a Word document, you can ask Copilot to export it into a Word document. And yeah, Chris just hit on it. Isn't there also an option to create a Word document? Yep.
And I'm throwing up what it looks like at the bottom of that prompt where you can edit in Pages, and that gets you to that loop component then you can use to be able to collaborate and share. Andrew has said, when Copilot analyzes meeting minutes, are the minutes put into the general graph?
If you share them out, yes, they'll be part of your graph.
Yep.
So remember, the graph is your connection to all the data in your organization. So what you see and all the things you're doing and things like that. If you share it with everyone, then it becomes part of everyone's graph, and their copilots will pick up on it and see it.
Agreed. And then he kind of came back and said, hey, I meant transcript. And so, yes, if you have access
Same
to
thing.
that meeting transcript as attendee to that meeting, yeah, it's a part of the graph. Yeah, it's all based off of permissions. As far as those files that are shared in that meeting, all of those pieces then are going to be available, right, Will?
Right.
Yep.
Pratik also put in a link to a YouTube about Copilot pages.
Yeah, that's
So if
awesome.
you're interested on how to use that, that's a great one to go watch. Quick 401 on how to use Copilot pages. Thanks, Pratik.
Yeah, so Andrew, yeah, you're right. If they don't have access to the meeting, they're not going to have access to that transcript, and then it's going to be a problem being able to access it through Graph. It's all based, and that's anything inside Copilot and M365. If you don't have permissions for it, they're not going to have access to it. So then somehow you have to get that information out of there and into something that they may have access to be able to run things against.
You would generally see a Copilot response that says something like, I don't have access to that particular meeting
Yep.
because you don't have access to that particular meeting. You get a generative response that would give you any, I don't call it publicly shared, but any information that generatively could reply until you have access to that meeting.
Yeah, and
Here's
Andrew, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll just say Andrew quantified that. He said, I really don't want them to have access. So this is good news. So
Yes.
I think that's awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
A cool use case outside of that, though, if you have a video, maybe it's a recording you did of yourself in person or something with a training seminar, or it's a YouTube video that you've downloaded, any video you can put up in your OneDrive, open it up in Stream, and you can say, generate transcript. You can now use that with Copilot.
Yeah.
So you can take
a
very long, 1 hour YouTube, get a transcript out of it, and now you can ask questions about it and work with Copilot with it.
And because it's your OneDrive and not shared, you're not exposing it to other people. It's locked to the permission of your OneDrive.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I do think we're at time. Actually, we're over time. Thank you for those people who are hanging on. We do have a couple more things to talk about. So thank you, Will. I appreciate your time today. And I'm going to drop you off and finish up. So guys, gals that are left over, please take some time and let us know what's going on. In fact, give me a second. I want to jump to my end stuff here. There we go. All right, so let us know how we did today. Give us some ideas. Please let us know what's going on. You can click on that link that'll take you to our form you should have access to. Please fill that out. Let us know what's going on and how we can, what other topics we want to be able to do in this particular event that we're doing monthly, as you saw before. So make sure you take some time and do that. Some call to actions. Don't forget to be able to, don't forget that we have that way to be able to connect into our community and connect with that. Also, there is the YouTube link. If you are not subscribed for that, we're going to be uploading the video for this in there shortly. So make sure you get subscribed so you can see that and then share that out with your colleagues and friends. With that, I'm going to say thank you, Will. Nice job. Appreciate the content for today. I hope you guys got something out of the event today. And we hope to see you guys at the next event happening in November. Thank you, everybody.